Reactor online. Sensors online. Weapons online. All systems nominal.
Hello everyone, Carrie here. What we're talking about here today is the Mercenaries Kickstarter box set. So this is the box set that was mainly being developed for the Mercenaries Kickstarter and helped to end up getting us all these wonderful mechs, which we're going to be covering as force packs as we go through the rest of this year. So let's talk about the Mercenaries Kickstarter box. The first thing you notice when you open the box, you will see a small short story by Michael Sierravella. And I don't have it in a room with me, and I really did not think about looking at my notes, but I want to say it's No One Left Behind, and it takes place during the Ill Clan era in the Federated Suns. So it's a nice little read, pretty quick, and gives us a little bit of off the beaten path feel for what's going on in the universe right now. Okay, yes, it is called No One Left Behind, like I said, by Michael Sierravella. Nice little foray into the universe. The next thing I want to mention before we even get to the miniatures, we're going to look underneath that because there's the miniatures, there's also the battlefield support cards, which have units, and it also has a deck similar to what you get in the Alpha Strike Force Pack, Alpha Strike box set, a battlefield support deck, which gives you a different, it gives you basically the same thing as what you get in the Alpha Strike Force Pack or the Alpha Strike box. I gotta stop calling it a Force Pack. Gives you the same thing as you get in that, but it's more geared towards BattleTech instead of Alpha Strike, which is obvious for reasons. Also, it has different art on it, so they're easy to differentiate, but I doubt you'll be mixing them up. So anyway, once we remove the insert with the cards for Alpha Strike, for the support deck, the individual support unit, battlefield support unit cards, you have the BattleTech Primer. This one is geared more towards the mercenaries in the inner sphere, and it focuses on 3058 and on 3051. So you get a different, you get a feel for the different mercenary units. It talks about the Wolf's Dragoons, the Keltowns, the Eridani Light Horse, Grey Death Legion, and the Northwind Highlanders. It also mentions some others in the back, like the Avanti's Angels, Blackthorns, Camacho's Caballeros, the Elysian Lancers, McCarran's Armored Cav, Snords Irregulars, and so forth. So you have that. Then you also have the rule book. Now, we'll touch on the rule book in a little bit, so we're going to hop past that at the moment. The next thing you have here is a double-sided map of the inner sphere. It has 3058, and so it's clan invasion. And of course, you have the invading clans, you have the great houses. The other one is in 3151, giving you a map with like the hinterlands and all that stuff going on. Also, you have a set of record sheets, and these are 2 variants each of the plastic miniatures in the box. So like you have the Caesar, the Quickdraw, the Ostsol, all those. And I believe they match up to the Alpha Strike cards that you get as well. You have 2 inserts that are heavy cardstock. These include infantry, mortar units, machine gun nests, some tanks, a long tom mash mobile headquarters. Basically, it's all your support units, and these work with the battlefield support cards for the units. So they're included in there for that. You also get a cheat sheet for force building, which is actually on cardstock, gives you ideas for anything from minor to maximum support, how many battlefield support points you get, and also it gives you battle value of units if you want to buy them by battle value and not by battlefield support points. You have that. You also have a double-sided mercenary force record sheet and mercenary contract record sheet. This works with the rulebook, and I'll explain in a little bit. You also have a mercenary contract, and you have a campaign flowchart and cheat sheet on the back of that. And these are all on dry erase friendly double-sided cardstock. And then finally, you have the two double-sided map sheets, which are very nice, very well done. And if you play Classic and you use map sheets, then you will absolutely love those. So let's talk about the rulebook for a minute. The rulebook mainly splits into two sections. This is not something you pick up when you're starting. This is something you get when you are actually into the game for a bit. You've picked up a game of Armored Combat, maybe you've picked up Clan Invasion, then you've picked up this. And quite frankly, those three combined would give you everything you need to play BattleTech without ever touching a force pack, which I think is interesting because you get a very wide array of units just from those three boxes. And you would never technically need to pick up a force pack ever. And you would have some pretty balanced and pretty powerful forces. But let's go ahead and talk about this. So the first half of this is battlefield support. That goes from page 4 all the way to the end of page 16. And essentially what it does, it explains how the asset cards work. And if you've played Alpha Strike, this will feel pretty familiar. I do know they had these in the Battle of Tukid. Oh, I don't know what to call it. The product for Battle of Tukid, but the maps and everything else. They had something similar, and this is built on that framework. And this explains how they interact with initiative, because they have their own initiative phase, how they work in combat, talks about multi-hex assets, how you track damage on them, and the cards are made in a they're also dry erase friendly, but of course you can sleeve them, which I would always recommend. What different special abilities mean, and stuff like that. So you have that, and then it talks about the cards for the actual battlefield support deck cards, explains how those work, goes pretty detailed into it, gives you some optional rules for hidden aerospace, which I'm not quite sure how that works, explains artillery, radiuses on stuff like that, minefields, and gives you all of that. Also talks about how to integrate battle value into it, if you want to use battle value instead of battlefield support points. And yeah, I mean, it's not a very complex system. It's only 16 pages. Actually, I think it's less than that, because your first couple pages are the table of contents. I know this. I used to know the name for this. It's like the header page or something like that. Anyway, and of course the introduction. So really 13 pages, and it pretty much explains the whole system. Then you have from page 17 onward, so this would be page 17 to page 32, the Chaos Campaign Mercenaries system. This explains the Chaos Campaign system, how it works, and then it goes into how to play as a mercenary using the Chaos Campaign system. Now, it has everything from the terminology, such as units, forces, contracts, tracks, support points, reputation, how contracts work, your general contract terms, like what your base pay is, your maintenance costs, transportation. It goes into tracking jumps, which is interesting. Talks about salvage, which is obviously important to a mercenary, and then also to negotiating contracts. It gives you a couple of contracts in there on how to do it. Also gives you the different, like what your rating is and what kind of salvage rights, support rights, command rights you would get and stuff like that. So it's pretty straightforward, and it would be very easy to integrate into a Chaos campaign setting. If you wanted to, you could probably find the Blakist era source books and scenario. Well, they're source books and scenario packs because they have a Chaos campaign system in them, and you could easily integrate a unit into that Chaos campaign system that they used for the Blakist era. And like I said, it's not hard to find those books. I think Catalyst still sells them actually. You can probably find them on their web store, or you can go to our sponsor, Fortress Miniatures and Games, who I do want to give a shout out to real quick while we're here. If you need anything for BattleTech, including what we're talking about right now, this box set, they don't currently have it available, but once it is available for retail sale, it will be selling on their website for $56.24, and its normal price is $74.99. So once that is out there, they will definitely have it available and at a significantly reduced price. So let's talk about the miniatures. Okay, first of all, I want to say I am blown away by these miniatures. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to poke at them and nitpick. And we're going to talk about the Alpha Strike cards as well. That is my normal shtick. And that's what we're going to do. So the first one we're going to look at is we're going to look at the vehicles real quick. Now, one thing, if you watched my video, my first look at some of the Alpha Strike, the new BattleTech vehicles coming out, I mentioned that the vehicles have rotating turrets on a ball and socket setup. That has not changed. So they retained that ball and socket setup for the vehicles, and I really do enjoy that. And it makes me happy that they were able to do that. So looking at the vehicles, the first one we have here is the Maxim Heavy Hover Transport. Now, this is a beefy little guy. Now, mind you, it's supposed to carry battle armor. It's very well detailed. I love the way they did this. And it's like the hover skirt is done in a way where it looks like it could be some kind of Kevlar style hover skirt, which short thing because I'm a weird military and history nerd. If you have never worked with Kevlar, I know a lot of people out there are military who listen to this kind of content, but for those who aren't, Kevlar comes as a fabric, and yes, it stops bullets, but that's after you've essentially done like what you do with fiberglass, where you lay it into a plastic or an epoxy, and it is able to absorb that energy. But it's also used as a fabric, and in fact, some companies use it in their tires to help with resistance against puncture, which do I really believe it works? Yeah. Anyway, let's get back to the miniatures. So the Maxim, I really like the way they did this, and the details on it are amazing. It does have a mold line that I can see that runs up the middle of the side, and it runs kind of across the vehicle. It's not over any details though, it's on a flat spot, so you can literally just go and a couple passes with like an X-Acto knife and that's gone. So overall, amazingly well-detailed miniature. I really like it. For the Alpha Strike cards, you get the Maxim Heavy Hover Transport, 29 points. Combat Vehicle, size 2, TMM3, movement of 16 hover. It's a striker. Short 3, medium 2, long of 1, armor and structure 3, with elemental engine, indirect fire 1, infantry transport 3, searchlight SRM-11, turret 210, and it's available in every era. On the other side of that card, you get the escort version at 37 points. Combat vehicle size 2, TMM3, 16 hover. It's a striker. It's a 4-3-1, short, medium, and long, with 4 armor, 3 structure, fuel cell engine, indirect fire 1, rear 110, searchlight, and turret of 220. Oh, sorry, rear 110 asterisk. And it's essentially a small strike tank, hover strike tank at that point. And because you get 2 of the miniature, you get 2 cards. And the other ones are the Maxim Fire Support version, which is 33 points, combat vehicle size 2, TMM3, movement of 16, hover, missile boat 222, short, medium, and long, armor of 4, structure of 3, elemental engine, indirect fire 2, LRM 122, searchlight, turret 111, and indirect fire 1. And finally, at 36 points, you have the Battle Armor Factory upgrade version of the Maxim. It's a combat vehicle, size 2, TMM3, movement of 16, hover, striker, 331, so it actually hits pretty well. Armor of 4, structure of 3, with an elemental engine, indirect fire 1, infantry transport 4, searchlight and turret 210, so this is perfect for your Inner Sphere battle armor. And, well, any Inner Sphere faction's battle armor, as long as it's not heavy battle armor. Anyway, next up, we have the Galleon light tank. Now, the Galleon is one of the older designs in BattleTech. This was in Tech Readout 3025, if I recall correctly. And the little pintle-mounted gun on the top of the tank does rotate. It is a ball and socket. I'm tempted to try to pop it out of there, but I really don't want to break it. So we're not going to do that. Overall details, it does have the little side turrets. They do not rotate, and I think this is probably due to limitations in being able to cast the parts. Also, it looks like the undercarriage with the tread is a separate part from the main body, so that also is probably a limiting factor there. Overall, as far as mold lines and stuff, I don't really see any. They did a really good job on this, and it looks really freaky up. There's one mold line. I found a mold line. Nope, I take that back. That's actually a part where the door has a, yeah, okay. So yeah, I don't see any mold lines. This is done really well, and the way they did the tracks, if you look underneath, you can see the road wheels and the main sprocket wheels and all that. They are done very much in a style reminiscent of Tech Readout 3026, which had a lot of work by Dwayne Luce, and quite frankly, is one of the foundational books for BattleTech as far as source books. So let's take a look at the Alpha Strike cards for this awesome little thing. Once again, 2 tanks, so you get 2 different cards that are both double-sided, and they all have a different variant. You have the GAL 100 Galleon. It's 13 points, combat vehicle, size 1, TMM of 2, movement of 12, tracked. It's a scout. Short 2, medium 1, long 0, 2 armor, 2 structure, elemental engine, energy, searchlight, turret 110, available in every era. Then you have the 102 model, which is 31 points, and it gets considerably faster. Well, 2 inches faster, but it bumps the TMM up. It's a combat vehicle, size 1, TMM of 3, 14 inches tracked, striker, short and medium of 2, long of 0, armor of 4, structure of 2, energy, probe, recon, searchlight, and turret 110, succession wars forward. It's a good little design. I like it. Next up, you have the 106 Galleon, which is 33 points. It's a scout, combat vehicle, size 1, TMM of 3, 16 tracked, 221 for short, medium, long, armor of 4, structure of 2 with crit resistant. Nice. ENE, so energy, probe, recon, searchlight, tag, always useful if you have artillery, and turret of 221, so all of its firepower is in the turret. Then you have the 106M. Oh, and the 106 and 106M are both Republic or Dark Age forward. The 106M is 24 points, combat vehicle, size 1, TMM of 3, 16 tracked. It's also a scout. 110, so nothing really to write home about there compared to the other versions. Armor of 4, structure of 2, anti-missile system, case, crit resistant. It is a battle taxi. It has IT4, Searchlight Turret 1-1-0. So nice little Alpha Strike card there for the Galleon, which is an amazing miniature. I absolutely love the way that that came out. It really captures that look and that feel of the old 3026 books, but it has more of a modern feel to the way the miniature looks and how it's presented and built. All right, so our first mech of this episode, this whatever this is the Flea. Now the Flea is this model is beautiful. It's okay. If anybody has played Mech Commander 2, you will remember the Fire Ant, which is a variant of the Flea. And this feels very much like the Mech Commander 2 model, or the sprite, I should say, because they didn't use a 3D model. And it's done very well. There are some mold lines on the legs. They've hidden them in the corners, so you really don't see them at all. Has clip points on the top of the legs, which is normal. And of course, there is a mold line running down the middle of the torso, which doesn't look very bad. It can probably be scraped and it's gone. Other than that, there's really not much to say about the miniature. It's facing a hex side like it should, which, I always harp on that when it's not, but done very well. I really like it. And yeah, it knocks it out of the park. And like I said, very much Mech Commander 2. So it's giving me some of those Mech Commander 2 vibes, and I like that. Brings back some happy feelings from back then. Anyway, let's look at the Alpha Strike cards for the Flea. The first one we have is the FLE-17, 23 points, available from Clan Invasion forward. Battle Mech size 1, TMM of 3, moves 16 inches. It's a striker, no overheat, armor and structure of 2, and specials of energy and rear 1-0-0. So not bad. The next one we have is the 2-1 model of the Flea, which is 29 points. This one is Dark Age forward. Battle Mech size 1, TMM of 4 with a 22-inch movement. It's a scout, 2-2-0, no overheat, armor of 2, structure of 1, ECM, ENE, and stealth, which combined with the TMM is going to make this a very annoying little mech to kill. And I do really like the stat line for it. It gives me some Locust vibes. I could see that being paired very well with being paired very well with like I believe it's a 6M Locust, which has the ridiculous TMM of 5. So if you ever really want to like send your opponent into fits, you take those two. And also because they have more than 2 health, unlike a Dasher, they will not drop to an artillery strike from an Arrow 4 launcher, which, trust me, having played competitive Alpha Strike is more frustrating than I can ever express. The next model we'll be looking at is also the next largest. This is the Firefly. Now, the Firefly has always been, in my mind, a very Wolf's Dragoons mech, so it's very fitting that it's in the Mercenaries box. And I do like what they've done with it. The Firefly always felt weird, at least its miniature. It never felt right. And this rectifies that in a big way. So first off, as far as mold lines, there's really not much there to say. They've hidden the ones in the legs on the corners. You can see clip points at the top of the legs, which is normal. They'll be a little bit harder to get to with how they have, how the torso is placed directly over them, and there's not a lot of room, but they're not impossible to get to. Also, the torso, all of the mold lines for that have been hidden in any hard corners. And of course, I only see one clip point that is directly on the back behind its right side jump jet, which I like how they did the jump jets on this too. It makes them almost look like they would be air breathing, which is really cool. Like, it's hard to explain. You can see what I'm talking about when it swings around to the rear on the 360. But yeah, I mean, I like how they did this. Everything's integrated really well. It's not, I don't know how to put it. It's no longer a weird looking miniature. Looking at the Alpha Strike card for it, we have two cards here. Well, we have one card, two sides. First is the FFL 4C. It's 25 points. Battle mech size 1, TMM of 2, movement of 10 with 8 jump. It's a striker. Short and medium of 3, long of 0 with an asterisk. So you still have a chance of doing damage, but not much. Overheat of 0 with armor 4 and structure 1. It does have anti-missile system, so it's a little bit more, a little bit of, I don't know how to put it, the right word. There's a word I'm thinking of and I can't remember it now. But it gives a little bit more survivability. Case, indirect fire 0 asterisk, and jump weak 1. Of course, case is useless with one structure, but I don't think they charge you for it if you only have one structure. I think until you get 3, it's essentially on the card for free. The other one we have here is the 5A model. It's 26 points. Available from the Dark Age forward, and the other one, mind you, I forgot to mention, is from Succession Wars to the end of the Blakist era. So the 5A is a battle mech, size 1, TMM of 2, 12 with 16 jump, striker, short and medium of 2, long of 0, asterisk, overheat of 0, armor 3, structure 1 with anti-missile system, case, indirect fire 0 asterisk, and jump strong 1. I'm assuming it either has improved jump jets or a partial wing, and the way it looks, partial wing would be perfect for this miniature and this mech. Give me a sec. So, yeah, the Firefly, beautifully done miniature. I really like it. We start to get a little bit heavier here with our next mech. This would be the Chameleon. The Chameleon is an interesting mech. When it was brought into the game, it was described as a trainer, much like the Crockett, which I don't know if any of you are familiar with that little mech. I mean, it might be a little familiar. It's an old Starly relic. Comstar likes to use them, but anyway, the Chameleon. Um, overall, just overall thoughts on the miniature. I really like it. You got your typical clip points on the back of the legs, easy to clean. There is a very light mold line that runs up the center line of the gun. Once again, easy to clean. And a little bit around the hand, which, once again, easy to clean. It's nothing egregious, nothing bad, nothing where I'm looking at like mold slip going, oh my God, how are you going to use this? No, this is done very well. I like how they were able to make it, like looking at the legs, you can see a almost Phoenix Hawk inspiration in the legs of the mech. And I like the very large backpack jump jets. They just feel right. Also, one of the things about stuff like the Chameleon, it did have a very curvy appearance, and they've been able to retain that. It has a beautifully large cockpit, which for those of you out there who like to do like the cockpit dueling, this is going to be something very fun for you. As far as Alpha Strike, we have a double-sided card again. The 7V, which is 24 points. It's a battle mech, size 2, TMM of 2, movement of 12 jump. It's a scout, available from the Clan Invasion forward. It's a short 2, medium 1, long of 0 with 1 overheat. Armor and structure of 4, no specials. But to be fair, it's a pretty resilient medium mech. We then have the 7Z model, which is 30 points. So it goes up by 6, but it gets a little better. It's also Clan Invasion forward. Battle Mech size 2, TMM of 2, 12 jump striker, short and medium of 2, long of 1 with an overheat of 1, armor of 6, structure of 2 with a special of energy. So not only is it harder to get criticals on it as far as ammunition explosions, because you can't get an ammunition explosion critical, but it also has most of its health transferred into armor, so it's not as prone to being destroyed due to critical hits. The next one we have here is the Starslayer, and remember how I was mentioning Mech Commander 2 vibes? The Starslayer also gives me Mech Commander 2 vibes. The model, I have to say, out of all of these, I think this is the one I like the least as far as quality control. Overall, the model is great. I mean, it's a wonderful model. I really like the detail. And like I said, very, very much there is Mech Commander 2 vibes from this thing. Um, the part where I get a little bit picky, the arm gun, there's a clip point on the back and a mold line running down the length of it. Um, the torso across the top of it and across the head, you have a mold line that runs along it. It also runs down the sides of the torso. And then, of course, you have like some mold lines on the legs up the center, which isn't too bad. But it goes all the way down the length of both legs. So there's going to be some cleanup, at least on the front. Overall, really good miniature. I feel like this one, it's a little bit less precise as far as the mold. I'm not quite sure. I don't design molds, so I have, but I don't design them for like pressure injected plastic. So not too much to say on that, but overall a good model. As far as the Alpha Strike cards that you get with it, you have the 3C model Starslayer at 35 points. It's a battle mech size 2, TMM of 2, movement of 10 jump. It's a skirmisher, short and medium of 3, no long range damage, overheat of 1 with armor of 6, structure of 4. It has case, rear 0 asterisk nil nil. And this, like I think I mentioned, it's clan invasion forward. Not a bad mech in Alpha Strike, sort of troopery. I know Justin over at the Armed Painter uses the Vulture as his baseline of a mech. I think it's 33 points, 333, something like that. Excuse me, something like that. This is roughly in that range. The jump, I think, sort of puts it over top of the 33 point range. Then you have the 4C model of the Starslayer. This is from the Dark Age forward. It's 36 points. Battle mech size 2, TMM of 2, movement of 10 jump, skirmisher. 330 again with an overheat of 2. So a little bit more teeth on the overheat there. Armor of 6, structure of 4, rear 0 asterisk 0 asterisk nil, and TSM. It does drop case. See, like that's a rough one for me because yeah, TSM lets you go even faster. It doesn't really change your movement mod though. But 4 health structure case could save your butt, especially if it's your first crit and they hit an ammo explosion. You're not out. You're hurt, but you're not out of the game. So I sort of lean more towards having case than not having case. Okay, so we are on to the Quickdraw. That's the Alpha Strike card. We're not going to go to the Alpha Strike card yet. I made that mistake last time I recorded this. So the Quickdraw. First of all, this one. Okay, little backstory here. The Quickdraw has had multiple plastic versions made, multiple metal version, well, one metal version and multiple plastics. None of them have ever captured this mech right. It's always felt wonky or off. And to be fair, the artwork for the mech also is a little weird. Had a very interesting cockpit window. And I want to go ahead and talk about this one because this is in the box set, but also it is way nicer than any Quickdraw model we've ever had, and I really like it. You'll find this reaction this time and one other time when I talk about these, and you'll understand the next time that I get kind of like this. The Quickdraw, this miniature is amazingly good. It's a 60 tonner, and comparing it to other mechs that are roughly the same weight class, like a Jaeger mech, it feels right. It's not too big, um, but it's also not too small, which is the problem that the Quickdraw has always had, is that its sculpts have always felt too small. Um, Overall, I really like it. They've stuck to the cannon loadout, and they've done a very good job. I know that was the other thing the Quickdraw miniatures never got right. And quite frankly, there's not too much to say about it. It's done well, and I really do like it. As far as mold lines on the legs, they've used the technique of casting the mold lines into the corners, which makes them very well hidden. Um, Up on the arms, you also don't have much. This is probably one of the best miniatures in this whole box, actually, as far as mold lines or anything like that. You can see how they did the arms separately, and that lets me know and hope that Ironwood Metals can pretty effectively transfer this over to a metal version without much fuss. And also, the way the missile launchers are set, you could probably set this up to have different variants when they do it in metal. Um, One other thing, they have once again made sure that the jump jets are air breathing, and there are vents at the top of it to allow air to come into them, and then at the bottom they have nice big openings to allow that thrust. And of course, there is a rear firing weapon, I believe, on it, and or a pair of them, and it is present there. So, overall, the miniature, it's great. I love it. Let's look at the Alpha Strike card for it. The Quickdraw has double-sided Alpha Strike card. The first one is the 4G model. It's 32 points. It's a battle mech, size 3, TMM of 2, movement of 10 jump, skirmisher. It's 2-3-1, short, medium, and long, with no overheat. Armor of 4, structure of 5, with indirect fire 1, and rear 1-1-0. It's available from the Star League up until the end of the Blakist era. We then have the 9G, and this is the Quickdraw turned up to 11. This is 51 points. It is a Dark Age model, Dark Age and forward model. Battle mech size 3, TMM of 3, movement of 16 with 10 jump, skirmisher, short and medium of 4, long of 0, no overheat, armor of 6, structure of 3, so most of that health's been turned into armor. Specials of case 2, so it's immune to ammo explosions. Jump weak 1, which I don't know why you would be jumping with this unless you're like trapped. And rear 1-1-0, so it can hit in the rear if it's threatened. This right here is like the Quickdraw you need to fear the most. It's fast, it hits decently hard. The only downside is it costs 51 points. This will cost you a lot of points in an Alpha Strike Force, but dear God, is it good? So yeah, I really like that model. I like what they did with it, and I like the Alpha Strike card for it. I like that 9G, which that model, the 9G, is available to mercenaries in the master unit list. I haven't looked, but I have a feeling that every single thing we see here is something that's available to mercenaries in the master unit list as far as the Alpha Strike cards. The next mech we have is the Caesar, and this is Caesar's also one of those that's always been kind of weird, but that's mainly because it's like a revised cataphract, like how Stavian saw the cataphract and said, "Ooh, we can do that." Overall, the model's done really well. The mold lines, I don't see any on the legs really on the front or the back. Same with the torso. I'm going around it right now. They've done a really good job of hiding the mold lines on it. The torso gun, which is a separate part, feels a little wonky. I don't know how to describe it. You'll be able to see it on the 360 rotation. Why did I pronounce rotation that way? Anyway, and on the arms, I want to say a little bit of a mold line on the back of each arm, but nothing serious. They did a really good job on this, and I really do like it. Um, it I've never really looked at the Caesar as a mech that I want, but I might be putting this into Unicorn Company. We'll see. The cards we get for it, it's the CES 3R. It's a 34-point mech from Clan Invasion forward. It's a battle mech, size 3, TMM of 1, movement of 8. It's a brawler, short and medium of 4, long of 3, no overheat value, armor of 6, structure of 3 with case, rear 1-1 nil. So it's a decent heavy mech. Hits good for its weight. I, especially given it's a Clan Invasion era Intersphere mech, it's not bad at all. But we then have the back of this card, which is the 5R model. It's 51 points. It's a battle mech, size 3, TMM1, movement of 6, so it's a little bit slower. Brawler, 442 for short, medium, and long, no overheat. Give me a second to count this. 14 armor and 3 structure. That wasn't a misread. That wasn't a miscount. That's 14 armor and 3 structure. That's terrifying. It has case 2, so it's also ammunition explosion proof, crit resistant, so it's also head hit proof, and rear 1-1 nil. So effectively, you have taken your opponent's 2d6 on a critical hit chance and turned it into a 2d5. And if they roll an ammunition explosion, you ignore it. You just outright ignore it. So, yeah, that's pretty freaking scary. But actually, I was going to say it gets scarier, but it doesn't. So let's take a look at our next mech. Okay, so we are down to our last two. The first of these is the Ostsol. Now, I've covered the metal Ost Scout on the channel, and the Ostsol is in that family of mechs. Now, when I say family, there's like a whole story about the Ost series of mechs and about how one man had designed them, or been the lead designer on them, and his influence in that. And one day we'll probably cover that, but today we're just going to look at the mech. Now, before I go any further, I do want to say that personally, I do like the Project Phoenix version of this mech, but I can look past that. Seriously though, the Ostsol is a wonderful mech, and I really like this sculpt. It's in a running pose, which is quite fitting because the Ostsol was known as a fast heavy mech. And all of the weapons on it, it was kind of unique, and all the weapons were contained in the torsos. So you had the arms as sort of there for stuff. You could get in a fist fight in this mech and still be able to shoot constantly. And that I think is one of the nice things about it. I want to say all of the Ost mechs were torso-centric as far as their weapons. I might be wrong. I think we need to talk about that. And maybe next podcast episode we'll talk about the Ost series of mechs. But the Ostsol miniature, it's really well done. I really like how they made it. It captures that feel of what the Ost mechs were, which was kind of roundish. And I know that was from the source material they had originally used, but this captures it quite well. And As far as mold lines or anything like that goes, it's not. All right, there's one on the mech's left arm, right above the elbow near the outside. And there's one on the rear of the right arm. Having trouble finding the clip points for the legs. I'm wondering if they're part of the hip or how they did it. But yeah, overall, this is a really good miniature, and I do like it. And it's very well detailed, and I think they did a very good job. Uh, Props to Catalyst for this. This captures the feeling of the Ostsol very well. As far as the Alpha Strike card, we are looking at the OTL 4D. It's a 33-point mech, available from the Star League all the way up until the end of the Dark Age Republic era. The Battle Mech, size 3, TMM of 2, movement of 10. It's a skirmisher. Short and medium of 3, long of 0, no overheat. 5 armor, 5 structure, with energy and rear 1/1 making this a very zombie-like mech. In fact, you could take this probably in a game of normal BattleTech and be terrifying because, yeah, that's an energy boat that moves 5/8 in standard BattleTech, and it's from the 3025 era. Then you have the 8E model Ostsol. This is 36 points. It's a battle mech, size 3, TMM of 2, movement of 10, skirmisher, 330, overheat of 1. It gets a lot more armor protection. It has armor of 8, structure of 3. So it's like a tiny bit better health-wise than the original, the 4D. Its specials are ENE and rear 1/1 once again. And like I said, it's Dark Age forward. So overall, and it's what, a 3-point difference? You're getting a little bit more survivability. That's not bad. It's not a bad trade-off at all. Yeah, I think that's an awesome mech. Like, people look at the structure of mechs and be like, there's so little structure. But like with some mechs, yes, out the gate you have like 6, 7 armor, 8 armor, 3 structure. But on stuff that came from the Succession Wars era, unless it was already like gobbed up in armor, like way over armored, you're looking at usually an increase in armor by about 50% and a decrease in structure by about 50%. So yes, once you're into the structure, it dies quicker, but it takes longer to get into that structure. Now, the final mech we have here is the Devastator. And I have to say this right now. I am psyched about this model. And mind you, I don't play with Devastators. But I am psyched for this model. So let's look at it real quick, go over its flaws, and then we'll talk about why I'm so excited for this model in particular. So the Devastator, starting off looking at it, you do have mold lines on the legs, on the shin part, which are easy to scrape. I don't see the clip point. Once again, I think it might, oh, there's one. So I see one on the right leg, but not on the left. The guns look pretty good. You don't have really visible mold lines on them. I can feel it if I rub my fingers across the bottom of the gun, and I can kind of see it, but it's not like doesn't stick out at you. The torso guns look good. You do have the burring, which is normal. Has a very football helmet head, but it still looks good. The mold lines for the shoulder pads are hidden in the corners of the shoulder pads, which you can feel, but like a slight, go over that slightly with some kind of, excuse me, some kind of file or sanding stick, and it's going to be gone. So this model, why does this model excite me? Before I even get into the Alpha Strike card, why does this model excite me? Well, the reason it excites me, the reason I'm so happy about the Devastator, is because if you go look in Iron Wind Metal's catalog for the Devastator, the old Devastator, I don't remember if they did a primitive Devastator. It looks like it's falling over. Um, it's just never, they never captured the look or feel of it right. And that is, I don't know. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, well, that's the artist's fault, or that's Iron Wind's fault, or that's, I don't know who, I don't know where in the pipeline it went topsy-turvy, but it did. And this does so much to correct that. And this will probably get thrown into a FedSun's force, or I would say FedCom, but that's still just FedSun's to me. Um, but yeah, this is amazing, and I am very happy about it. Oh, I found another mold line. It's like on the edge of the mech's left foot. Still, like, there are not a lot of them, and it's easy to clean up. It's going to look amazing once it's painted up. I absolutely love it. Let's look at the Alpha Strike cards that come with it, and then we'll talk about my final thoughts on the box set. So we have the Devastator DVS2, which is 54 points, available from the Succession Wars forward. It is a battle mech, size 4, TMM1, movement of 6, Juggernaut. Short of 6, medium of 7, long of 5, no overheat value. Armor of 10, structure of 4 with a rear 1/1 nil. It's your basic bog standard assault mech. Nothing amazing about it, but also not really lackluster either. Then you have the DVS-11. It's a 57-point miniature, or mech, I should say. It's from the Dark Age forward. It's a battle mech, size 4, TMM of 2, 10-inch movement, Juggernaut. So, yeah. Short 5, medium 5, long 3. Overheat of 2 with, it looks like, again, armor of 10 for, yep, armor of 10, and rear 1/1 nil. That one's a little bit scarier because it moves 10 inches, but it still doesn't have case or ENE or case 2, so you get the crit through on that and you could blow it sky high without any problems. Okay, my thoughts. Well, before I go into those, before I go into my thoughts, I would like to let you know that if you want to support the channel, you can support us on Patreon at patreon.com/unicorncompany. You can also support us by going to one of our sponsors, either Fortress Miniatures and Games, let them know that Carrie sent you, or if you go to the Scrapyard Ork through the link in the description, we are an affiliate with them, and we get a small percentage based on sales through the channel. So multiple ways to support the channel. So let's get into the final thoughts on this. The final thoughts on the Mercenaries box. It's okay. So first of all, I have seen people say that they are disappointed in the fact that this is not a standalone product. I've seen people who parrot this, who sit there and say, yeah, no, it's not standalone. This is a horrible product to buy for a first-time player. Yes, it is. It is a horrible product to buy for someone who's just getting into the game. This is for if you've already gone through that pipeline, or if you're a veteran player. Like me, myself, I have been playing BattleTech for, God, 31 years now. And the main reason I have this, one is to review it for the channel because it needs, it needs to be reviewed. And I feel like I can give a fair and balanced, well, it sounds very Fox Newsy. Anyway, I can give a fair and balanced review. But no, seriously, I can give it a review. I can say what I think about it. Hopefully it helps to promote the game. It gets people to want to get this because I really think that this is something that will be good for veteran players or for players who have been through that pipeline of a game of armor, a beginner box, a game of armor combat, clan invasion, and now mercenaries. Because if you go through the box pipeline, as we'll call it, you don't need to buy anything else. You can literally just buy the boxes and maybe Battle Mech Manual if you want to have all the rules for mechs. So yeah, I really think that is my thought on this. This is a wonderful product. It is made for people who have been in the game at least for a little bit. It gives you a campaign system, which is definitely easy to transfer over to Alpha Strike. It gives you new miniatures. It gives you a way to integrate vehicles that don't require you to own Battle Mech Manual. Total Warfare. Why was I thinking Master Rules? That has not been in use for well over a decade. But you don't need to buy Total Warfare. You don't need to buy strategic operations or combat you don't need to buy anything. You just need what you get in the box. And any other stuff that you get as far as vehicles are going to have those cards where you can just get them and play with them. And it keeps mechs center in the game. So if you only use Battle Mech Manual, it's going to keep the mechs center in the game. They're not going to be something that gets overshadowed by tanks and infantry and aerospace assets. And that I think is the biggest selling point on this box. You get a campaign, you get miniatures, you get an experience with it, and it helps you to grow what you have in your gaming repertoire for BattleTech, and it also helps you to explore more than just mechs if you're newish. So yeah, those are my thoughts. Like I said, you can pick it up at Fortress once it's in stock with them. They are selling it at a deep discount. Or you can, if you got through Kickstarter, let me know what you think, what you like most about the box set. We will be covering the other the force packs and everything that also came with it. No particular order, although it's going to be Inner Sphere, then Clan. Okay, so there is some order: Inner Sphere, then Clan, then the two legendary force packs, because those are going to be interesting. So that is it for today. I really hope you enjoyed this. I know we went long. I do apologize. I'm going to try to trim it down. But I hope that y'all have a great day, great evening, great whatever it is where you are. This is Carrie signing off.
I'm gonna find my meaning, I can make a change. I wanna play the game. You wanna sink or swim? I'm gonna go down swinging.